Hello, Jeanette. How are you today?
I am well. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. I just want to, first of all, let me thank you for just taking the time out. I know you got a busy schedule. You're about to go abroad, and you took the time out to do this interview for me so that we can play this for our audience. Um, and as I was mentioning to you right before we got started, Saturday, the interview on the radio played, and people were texting me saying, "This is great information. Thank you." So I really appreciate you just taking the time out to do this for me.
Absolutely. I'm grateful to be here. And we had fun with that interview that we did for the radio. So
We
I'm looking
did.
forward to talking more today.
Yeah, and now we get the visual along with the audio. So here we go.
Yeah.
Right? So for our audience, I mean, it's not every day that we have a Tony nominated actress on our show. So I do want to tell the people a little bit. I want you to tell a little bit about yourself and your background, and then we're going to get into this from Broadway to Wall
Oh,
Street, which is pretty cool. So
yeah.
tell us a little bit about you.
All right. Well, I'm Jeanette Bayardelle, singer, actress, entrepreneur, producer, writer, dot. And I was raised in the Bronx, New York. I went to high school of performing arts. For those of you who don't know about that high school, if you remember the movie Fame, that's the Fame School. So I went there. After that, I went to Hunter College and I did a bachelor's in health science. And after that, I figured, I did the school thing. Now it's time for me to pursue the arts full time. So straight out of college, I started working in the arts. And my first Broadway show was The Color Purple.
Wow.
Uh, I played Celie. I did Broadway. I did tour, and then I did other shows, Hair. I created my own musical, Sheeta, which I'm so excited about. We've done it. We've toured with it. We've done it off Broadway. We've done it in Europe, in London, and we're planning to bring it to Broadway 2003, 2004 season. And after that, I did Girl from the North Country, and that's where I was nominated for Best Featured Actress in a Musical. And throughout my career, I have been interested in finance and building my credit and my business credit, and eventually it led me to trading in the market, which I love. And then I decided to create something for people to be able to do the same thing, but don't have the stomach for the language, the financial.
Well, you know, in the financial world, we use so many jargons and
Yeah.
different acronyms and all that. But one of the things I think is pretty amazing because you talk to a lot of people who are inspiring artists. Maybe it's music, maybe it's acting, sometimes fashion art. And a
Mhm.
lot of times they skip the college part and they go directly to pursue that dream. And I thought it was just kind of remarkable that you said you went and got a bachelor's in science or
Science.
yeah, and for me that's amazing because science was not my thing, right? Um why did you decide to do that and then before pursuing the music thing or the career,
Well,
the dancing?
my parents really stress education. They were born in Haiti, and they're big on education and becoming a doctor or a lawyer. You got to be a doctor or a lawyer,
Got
doctor
it,
or.
got it.
So, I figured if things didn't work out in the arts, I would like become a doctor. My dad's a doctor, my sister's a doctor, my aunt's a doctor, my cousins. We have a bunch of doctors in the family. So I figured if things didn't work out, I would just become a doctor. And I do love math and science.
Okay.
So I was in school and I was in college, like, okay, what is the quickest way I can get out of here and enjoy myself here? So it was math and science. So that's how I became a health science major. And I had already went to high school. I went to high school of performing arts. So we learned a lot of vocal technique and theater then. So I figured I wanted to do something different for college.
Gotcha.
Now
Good.
in the theater industry, they do go to college and they are trained, but they are trained in the field of acting. and
Right.
performance.
And that's the
So
part
I
that I thought was so unique, is the fact that you did the health science instead
mm,
of the theater or one of those things. So that's pretty cool.
yeah.
So you
Um,
mentioned the high school you went to was the same school as Fame, right? And so people my
yes.
age and older, we remember watching Fame, we remember watching that
Mm,
on TV. So what was it like compared to, what we saw on TV, right? So we always know that
man,
there's
it was okay. We didn't have there weren't people dancing on the chair on the tables in the lunchroom all the time, right? But I have to tell you, be going to that high school was it changed my life. Just being around a bunch of people who are we're like-minded, we're performers,
Mhm.
we're creatives. Every day was exciting. We did a lot of singing in the hallways, and people were dancing in the hallways at times, and but we were always creative. And I mean, I loved high school. It was kind of hard to graduate, like to leave my high school friends
Wow.
because I knew that, I was leaving a community and I wasn't sure if I would get that type of community again. Fortunately, because I did choose to pursue the arts, I am in that type of community again. And I'm grateful for that because there's no community like our community. I
Well, and
mean,
that's what I
we,
was hearing you, even before you said the word community, that's what I was sensing, is that your high school experience, and because of you were all there creatives, that it was that community. So that's pretty dope. That's really interesting. I think that's great. And we all need that in our life, right? We need
yeah.
that community, and whether it's family or church or our
Mhm,
careers or special interests, having that
mhm.
community is so important in our lives. And so now I realize that you have been in, like, I think I saw 50 countries and all this,
Yeah.
and you're doing these tours and all that, and then the color purple, and just some amazing things. And then you get introduced to this investment piece. So tell us a little bit about that journey.
Okay, so I was on tour with The Color Purple. I believe this was like 2008. And John Rogers Jr., who is the founder of Ariel Investments, he was one of the producers of The Color Purple. And when we were in his hometown, Chicago, we did a sit down there for about 8 months, which means that we did the show there for 8 months.
Mhm.
And it was the first leg of the tour. And he decided to invite the cast to his headquarters and give us like he gave us like a workshop on investments and mutual funds and stuff like that, and gave us an opportunity to open up accounts. And I decided, I mean, the speech, his staff was great. We had a
Okay.
wonderful time, but I wasn't like, oh, this is exciting. I was like, okay, all right, well, I guess I'll invest. Okay, I'll open up an account, and I did that. And a couple of years, that account grew, and it was that was the money that I used to finance the first leg of my Sheeta musical. And when I
Wow.
say the first leg, meaning like I did a workshop presentation, and then we did a presentation at Birdland in New York City for audiences to come. And
Okay.
so I was able to finance that. And I was like, wow, this investment thing is kind of cool. So that's how it started. And then a couple of years after that, a friend of mine's introduced me to day trading. He was an investor. He had a lot of real estate property, and he traded. And I was interested in like getting some real estate property. And he was like, you can do that, but you should also consider day trading. And I was like, day trading, what is that? And he explained it to me, and that's when I was like, oh, okay. And that's how it happened.
That's how I got started. And something, it's so interesting because that's usually what happens. Someone introduce us to something or someone in there, and now we get catch it and run with it. And it sounds like that's exactly what you did. One of the things that struck me, and I never really thought about this, is you mentioned that you were on tour, and you said 8 months in Chicago for The Color
Mhm,
Purple. And it's
mhm.
just like your career, you probably have spent months at a time in like these locations. And that seems like it may be a little bit different than maybe even movies, right? Because it may not be as long a time that they would be away from home or traveling.
Right.
So that's an interesting lifestyle all in itself.
Yeah, and that 8 months, that was just Chicago. We were touring the United States. So after Chicago, we did 3 months in California,
Hmm.
and then we did Houston. And so I was on the road for about 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah,
And so
it
you
can.
mean to tell me you're on the road and then you learn about investing, and even now when you're on the road as a day trader, how does that work for you? And explain to us a little bit, because some people have this mindset of day trading, that, if I'm a day trader, I'm sitting in front of my computer all day, um, you know,
Mhm.
drinking coffee, eating bonbons, right? So what exactly, how does that work in terms of your lifestyle?
Okay, you can do that. You can sit in front of your computer all day. There are day traders that do that. But for me, I don't do that. And once you learn your style of trading, well, here's the thing. First, you have to educate yourself. And I have definitely went and I researched on my own. And then once I felt like I've done enough research on my own, and it was time for me to pay for courses, then I started to do that, and I started to
Right.
surround myself with people in the finance industry, and just had that conversation every day, because it's great to have a community of people who are talking about the same thing, and
Right.
you're teaching them, they're teaching you. So once I've done that and I've developed my own trading style, then see, now that's a game changer, because everybody can talk to you about their style, and you can say, oh well, let me try it out, but eventually you're going to see what works for you. So I found what
Right.
works for me, and I don't sit in front of the computer every day. I'm very I kind of just day trade one thing, but that's me. Some people just
Okay.
day trade. Some people trade 50, 60 things. I just concentrate on one thing, and I just ride the waves of the market. That's how I trade.
Well,
Uh,
and that's so interesting, because I hear people say, I was talking to someone one time and they said, I only trade Apple, right? That's all they trade is Apple. And then, I've heard people say I trade, the Dow Jones, so in those type of things. And it's very interesting. I love that about finding your style of trading,
Mhm.
um, that works for you. And
Yeah.
so that's pretty awesome. So do you do a lot of research on that one thing you trade, or you kind of stay up
Oh,
on
I've
it?
watched this for some years. It's just something that I've watched. I used to trade more than one thing, but see, I like volatility in the market. So, like you were talking about the indices, I like the indices. So, I like to trade the indices, whether it's and I'm more of a bear, meaning that when the
Okay.
market goes down, I'm in. So,
Well, let me
so
put
and
this plug in. Let me put this plug in right quick. Okay. So those of you who do not know what the bear market or bull market is, as she mentioned that, I'm gonna tell you right now, order my book. I talk about it in my book, and you're gonna
oh,
get a
come
chance
on.
to also enroll in this course with Jeanette, which I'm sure you will learn even more about it. So, and I'm a that excites me, right? Because I'm an indices guy too. So I usually every day I'm looking at the S&P 500, I'm looking at the
Mhm,
NASDAQ, I'm looking at the Dow
mhm.
Jones, because of much of what I do in my career in terms of helping people with retirement investments and these type of things. That's usually the indices that we're using in their accounts. And so I
Mhm.
love that. So I'm sorry, I interrupt. You can continue on that. So
Yeah, so the indices gets me excited, you know. I do look at the S&P 500, and you ride the waves. I mean, you learn that, when you reach a high in the day, there's always a pullback. So you want to ride those waves. And that's my method, but that's what I've developed over the years. Some people like to trade, they like to have like 10, 20 things on their dock, on their watch list. I feel like if I focus on this thing, this works for me. And I know how to dig myself out of holes, because sometimes you do make the wrong decision for the day.
mhm.
You could wake up, that market is red, and you like, for me, that's like, yes, yes, okay, you follow the trend, it's going down. And then all of a sudden, some type of news comes out or something happens and the market switches and you're already in the trade, and you're like, okay, so am I going to take a loss, or, and you have to have a plan. So I have a plan. So I always have a way to dig myself out of a bad decision so that I basically never lose.
Got
Now,
it.
I can be in stock market jail. Now, stock market jail means the trade you did not work out, and you're not going to make any move until you see a noticeable direction, you
Okay.
know, and then you dollar cost average down. That's a whole, but that's my strategy.
Right.
So
So basically, you when you say stock market jail, then you're not really not going on your hunch, but you're waiting for a definite move that you see that then you can make. So I imagine this, and a lot of times on my money minutes that I do on the radio,
mhm,
we have these things when the Federal Reserve will announce interest rates, and you have the jobs report that come out that could have
that
an impact. We see it, right? We
exactly.
see it on the market
Mhm,
all the time. Housing numbers may come out and these types of things, and that's kind of probably what makes it a little fun.
exactly. It's wonderful, because when the feds make their announcements, a lot of times it's in my favor.
Right.
I mean, for the past month, it's been in my favor. That market drops, but every now and again, like these last, I would say, like this week, that market was a little green for a long time, and
It,
so
it
I have
was
to
for a
like.
few days there, right? Yeah.
So I'm
So
like, whoo, hey, the stock market there, which means I'm not making any moves at this point
right,
until I see a direction, or I see a low, and or in this case a high, because what I trade when the S&P 500 is up, I like to trade the VIX. So when the S&P 500 is up, the VIX is down.
right.
So when I see a low in the VIX and I feel like, okay, let me get in so I can start dollar cost averaging down and get out of this bad trade that I made, then we start at zero. So there's no loss, but we start at zero. But I haven't been able to pay myself for the week. Now, another thing that I do is that I always make sure I pay myself every day.
Well, come on now. That's what I want to hear about, right? Because
This.
if I'm talking about this to my wife, and we're talking about day trading, and it's something that I personally want to do. I mentioned that to you,
Mhm.
and so, but the question becomes is, okay, how do you pay yourself in this, or are you just trading and you're building up wealth and you're building up this value, but how do you pay yourself, and consequently, that's one of the issues that I deal with a lot of people with retirement, right? So they have this big retirement, they have rental houses, they have 401ks, and we have to show them how to turn those assets into income. So talk to us a
Mhm.
little bit about paying yourself.
Okay, so I have a bunch of accounts. So I do have my investment accounts, and those are long term that I hold. I don't really. There's not much
Buy and
action
hold.
going. If
Yep.
I buy something, a company I believe in, that's going to be huge in the next 2 3 years, I'll buy that. Those are in those accounts. My trading account is my day trading account is more of like my money tree account. That's how I see it.
Okay.
So it's like, for example, like I'll play these little games with myself, and also you have to learn in day trading, every win is a win. Don't minimize your little wins, like, oh, only that was $20, that's nothing. No. Green is always good.
Right.
Green is always good, because people who trade, we know it could be minus $2,000 or minus 5,000, you know what I mean? So every win is a win, and you have to figure out what are your goals, financial goals for your trading account, and how much you plan to make, and depending on how much you plan to make determines on how much you want to keep in the account. Now, I teach this in my class. I'm giving you a little freebie for those of you who are listening.
I tuned
But
in
this,
tonight. Yeah,
I have a
absolutely.
song called 25K, and it's to, well, first of all, let me just explain. My course, Broadway to Wall Street, it's an introduction to the stock market course, and it helps demystify the stock market. So I use music, animation, and storytelling to teach the stock market. It's all online. Once you sign up, you have it for life. You go at your own pace. So I
So,
had these little.
we're going to do this though. We're gonna scroll that on the screen, um,
Okay.
of how to sign up. But just tell us how, if someone would sign up for that course, how would they do that?
Oh, you would go to Broadway to Wall Street, and the information is there. You can split it up in packages, or you could just get the whole thing for one price, the VIP all access for one
Okay.
price. Um, yeah. So in this course, I have like these little songs. So it's like you get a song, you get a lecture, which is like a storytelling situation. You get a little bit to read, and then you get an exam. So for every, module, that's what you're gonna get. And one of the first modules is I sing this day trading song, and it's like 25K in order to day trade. 25K in order to day trade, but you can sing swing trade. So I basically talk about day trading and swing trading. Now, if you
Okay.
want to day trade, you have to have at least 25K in the bank, but in your account. But if you want to swing trade, it doesn't matter how much money you have in the account. You just can't buy and sell in the same day more than 5 times a week.
Okay.
So you can swing trade if you don't have that 25K, meaning that you can buy a stock today and sell it tomorrow.
Got it. Got it.
Day trade is when you buy and sell the same security in one day.
Right.
And you can just keep riding the stock market. Oh,
Now,
buy.
you said that's the day trading? That's the day trading where you buy and sell
Day trade
in the same day.
in the same day.
Trading. Okay, got it.
Right. So so depending on what you want to do, your goals, if you want to make $1,000 a day, then I would suggest you have maybe at least. My risk management is serious, and that's so
Okay.
important in day risk management. So I'm very careful with what I'm trying to make and making sure I have enough to cover what I want to do. So depending on your goals, like for example, and sometimes I don't trade. I may be busy working on a project, traveling, singing here and there. But there are sometimes when I'm like, okay, wait a minute, I negotiated this contract and I didn't negotiate my parking. And parking in New York City is so expensive.
Mm.
So I had just finished doing a show where I didn't, for whatever reason, the parking wasn't negotiated.
Okay.
For whatever reason. And I was like, man, okay. So you know what I got to do? So I got to make sure I at least make my parking in my trading account every day. At least make the parking. Parking in New York City, like I said, is very expensive. And so that's what I did. It wasn't anything.
So
I didn't have
a purpose. You had a purpose for that trading, right. What you wanted, a goal for it. Got it.
And I would usually make that. I would usually make that parking in the pre hours between 7 and 9, right? Because you can start trading at 7 in New York at least. Sometimes it trains per city, but yeah. And I'm with TD Ameritrade, I would start at 7, and I'd be like, oh, let me make that. And I would make it before I even got to work. I would make it, and when I make it, I transfer it into my bank account.
Okay.
That's how I pay myself.
So that's how you pay yourself. Is that you
at the end of the day?
Go ahead.
Make it. And honestly, the way that I do to monitor myself, anytime I realize a gain, I send that to my bank account.
Okay.
So every day I will keep, so there's a specific amount that I'm going to have in my bank account, in my trading account. Anything over goes into my, I pay myself.
Got it.
That's how I do it.
Listen, I like that method. I like that a lot.
Yeah, right? Because what happens if you don't do that, and I've done it the other way, you're just it's like you're going back and forth and you can't really appreciate the gains.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You have this wealth and you're making this money, but you're not utilizing, you're not using it for.
You're not using it. And then sometimes you make a bad move with all of that you gained last week is gone. You know what I mean? So it's like, no.
Nah, you'd be like, I should have took some of that out. Yeah.
Exactly. Gotcha. So I don't have those days. I take that, but that's what my trading account is, my money tree. Like if I know I'm not going to be in the show, or, my paychecks are stopped, then I say, okay, well now this is what I have to make a day. Okay, I'm gonna have to at least make $1,000 a day, or I'm gonna have to at least make 2,000 a day, depending on what it is. There have been times like where I'm like, oh, okay, all I need to make is like $100 a day. And that's low stress. You know what I mean? It's like, I can do that in my sleep. But then sometimes if you want to make that 5,000 a day, you're like, okay, let me think. All right. And then you can't get too emotional.
Right. You got to get the emotions out of it, right?
Because you're trying to, so it's a lot of the psychology behind the stock market is really important to learn. And I teach that in my course. My course is a good foundation for people getting into the stock market, because those things that I teach are the things that you're going to need to save your money and not get greedy and risk management in place, because it's easy to get greedy. Once you find out something works, and we all fall into that trap. You like, oh, this works. I know for sure. Like, I'm a gap girl. We know that gaps close in the market. Technical analysis, gaps close. You don't know when, but usually with the indices, they close quicker than with a regular stock. But sometimes that gaps down, and you're like, well, I'm getting in. And then it goes down further. And then now the stock is trending down for the week, and you're like, oh man, I done messed up. But you know what I mean? So you have to manage your emotions, your greed level, your fear level. It's a lot.
All those things are so important. Well, you know, one of the things you started to say, like, if you want to make at least $1,000 a day, which is, I mean, that's significant money. You're talking about, you know, 5 days a week trading is taking place here in the U.S. markets, right? So how much do you have to have in your trading account to make that type of money?
Okay, so depending on how you're trading, it's much easier to make that money if you're doing options, right?
Right.
Because
I like options.
You like the options are good when they work,
but when they don't,
but when they don't, you're gonna feel the pain.
Right.
So if you're options, it takes less money because you're selling. You're getting contracts. You're buying one contract is worth is 100 shares of whatever you purchased, and if you buy it at a fraction of a price, then you're buying it at a fraction of a price than if you would have just bought it straight out 100 shares. So you need less money for that. But with options, there's a time frame. So if that trade does not work out by Friday, depending on depending on your expiration date, it's a lot of technical stuff, then you can lose all of it, half of it, depending on when you decide to get out the trade. So there's a time frame on that. I don't like time frame.
A little bit more risk. Okay, gotcha. So
there's way more risk, but the reward is beautiful when it works out. When a trade works out and you've done your proper research and whatever technical analysis you do, and you would want to trade options on that. You don't want to just be like, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. All right, that's the sure way to lose a lot of your money. So if you're doing options, it takes way less for you to make $1,000 a day, but it's way risky. Me, I don't really like to do options, and I would say if you want to make $1,000 a day in the stock market, you have to be able to lose $1,000 a day. And when I say lose, not necessarily lose, just see your account go down $1,000.
Right.
Right. So whatever you do, and that's the calculation. If you want to make $1,000 a day, you got to have enough in your account as a day trader that if your account goes down 1,000 for the day and your trade didn't work out, it may work out later on that you are okay and you're still above that 25,000 mark.
Gotcha. We always say this. It's don't invest any more than you can afford to lose, right? And so, well, this has been great. It's been educational. I think the way you do it in terms of, like you say, I trade one thing, makes it more palatable for people because it can be very, very complex. There's so many different companies, and now we got cryptocurrencies that people are talking about. You got forex, foreign exchange. There's a lot of different things out there, and I've heard people say too that find something that you're interested in, something that you like, and trade that. If you're into whatever, then trade that. So this has been great information. Go ahead.
What happens too when you trade a lot of things, you'll have one thing that's made so much money, but then you have that other thing that's lost so much money, and now you like, you're just breaking even.
Right. Right. And we ain't getting in this to break even. We want to make some money, right? So
the only way I break even is when I make a bad trade and I'm in stock market jail and I gotta wait and dollar cost average down to get myself out. Then I'll break even and I'm like, okay, now I can start from scratch and make a better decision.
Now you can put that behind you and go to the next.
Exactly. But I broke even. I didn't lose.
Right.
In a sense, I lost in a sense where I wasn't able to pay myself for maybe 5 days, but
right.
I'm still at my base. Yeah.
Got it. Well, listen, I want you to tell one more time, the website to sign up is
BroadwayToWallStreet.com, sign up. And I would say, don't wait. Sometimes you're like, well, when I get a lot of money, then I'm gonna, then I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna educate yourself now. So when that money comes, you know exactly what to do. You know how to make it grow. You can have your own money tree. Having a money tree is an amazing thing. It is an amazing thing because you have a way you have the knowledge to dig yourself out of every situation because life is life, right? So we go
Right.
through all kind of ups and downs. Sometimes you don't have money, sometimes you do have money. But when you have that knowledge that, okay, I can flip this money, I can make this money work for me, there's power in that. And you have leverage in life. You're not just accepting anything because you need the money. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Choices. We all want choices, right? And
Right.
so thank you again so much for taking the time out to come and do this interview with me. And
Yes.
I really hope that we have people that will sign up for the course and learn so that we all can start doing some day trading. So thank you again. Safe travels abroad. And
Thank
let
you.
this not be the last time that you come on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
You bet.